Hampshire took charge of their LV County Championship match against Gloucestershire on the penultimate day in Bristol, where the home side lost wickets throughout the day at regular intervals, but were given some hope in the last session. The home side needed just 10 balls to bring Hampshire's first innings to an end on 422. Matt Taylor with his first fifer in the first class arena as Adam Wheater holed out on 82. Taylor ended with figures of 5 for 75. So Hampshire had a first innings lead of 118, and after Chris Dent struck an early boundary, Gloucestershire were in trouble. In the third over, James Tomlinson removed both openers. Michael Klinger nicked behind after making only a single, while 4 balls later, Dent on 4 cut to Michael Carberry to leave the home side on 6 for 2. Overall in this match, they'd now lost 8 wickets for just 21 runs. It meant that their first innings hero Will Tavares again had a big role to play at number 3. His debut innings of 139 was simply magnificent, but this was now a situation which would test out the youngster's character no end. For a while he looked up to it, as he and Alex Kidman took the score to 48. It was perhaps too much to expect Tavares to do it again, and this time, with 18 runs to his name, he was LBW to a full ball from Matt Coles. So instead, Gloucestershire now had to rely on the experienced hands of Gidman and Hamish Marshall, 2 players who have been around the block a few times in their long careers. Gidman looked in sublime form from the off, playing his shots to all parts on another delightful spring day in North Bristol. The home side desperately needed these two to bat for some while, and they did indeed see out the morning with very few problems. Gidman was scoring at a good rate too. His 50 was reached off 66 balls, a lovely knock as so many are when Gidman is on song. He'd found the boundary 7 times as he and his partner Marshall managed to knock off the first innings deficit with no further losses. While Gidman expressed himself, Marshall took on the blocker's role at the other end, this being one of his few moments of aggression. Gidman, on the other hand, maintained his scoring rate as his side went ahead, with these two adding a very valuable 76 runs for the 4th wicket. What they really needed, though, was this stand to go on well into the evening session. Instead, it was ended by Sean Irvine, who found the ideal line and length to have Gidman in 2 minds about his shot. He nicked behind and was gone for 72 at 124 for 4. Irvine also did for the younger Gidman, Will, who dragged a wide ball back onto his stumps to reduce his side to 136 for 5, or effectively 18 for 5. So Gloucestershire still needed to get many more runs from here, which left an awful lot resting on Marshall's shoulders. He'd now been joined by Cameron Herring, who at least made the most of a couple of overs from Carberry early on in the final session. 40 more runs were added before Hampshire again took control with 2 more successes. On 22, Herring didn't know whether to go back or forward. It was instead pinned in his crease by Kyle Abbott, while Liam Dawson also won an LBW appeal to remove Tom Smith, a wicket which left Gloucestershire on 183 for 7 and leading by only 65. It all looked over for the home side, but that may not necessarily be the case after James Fuller, once again in this roller coaster of a contest, began to turn the tide. He played a host of fine shots as he raced to 28, made in a partnership of 33 with Marshall, who was able to admire Fuller's antics from the non-striker's end. At least the lead stood close to 3 figures by the time that Fuller was out. The joy from the visitors was unconfined when he fell into a trap by feeding James Vince a superb catch at leg gully off Coles. But that joy was tempered by Marshall and David Payne. Throughout this game, if a batsman can ride out the first 30 balls or so, then he has a good chance of making a score, and that even goes for the tail-enders. Few would have expected Payne to produce some of the magic he managed here, with a couple of reverse paddles off the bowling of Carberry. Hampshire would have expected to have been batting themselves to victory by this stage, but Payne had other ideas. His top score last season from 9 championship innings was just 16, but you wouldn't have believed that from some of the shots he played here. This one carried the distance. Marshall, meanwhile, had hardly played a shot in anger up until this point. He now decided that this was his time. He went past 50 off his 162nd delivery. That was his 6th-4 in an innings which was now going to become even more important, with the tail backing him up rather better than the top order had managed. Marshall too now moved the score along quickly. It's been a pitch on which you do get plenty of value for your shots, and when you're striking them as well as Marshall was by now, then the scoreboard would be ticking over quickly. Marshall was especially good with a square cut, a shot which was now bringing him plenty of reward. The second new ball was doing little apart from flying to the ropes. Then, right at the end of the day, Payne had a flash at Vince and was very well held by Dawson in the slips. Payne had made an excellent 47 and had at least given his side an outside chance going into the final day. His partnership with Marshall, who ended the day unbeaten on 84 after nearly 5 hours of batting, was worth 92, and that means that Gloucestershire will go again on the final morning on 308 for 9, and that gives them a lead of 190. A good first hour on the final morning could yet change the outcome of this excellent game.